There's a kind of pressure that lives in the unknown, a quiet fear that asks, what if it doesn't happen? What if I'm too late? What if God forgot me? And if you let it, that fear will lead you to grasp, to rush, to force, to trade peace for control. But the more you try to hold everything together, the more it starts slipping through your hands. Trusting God's timing isn't passive. It's not sitting in silence hoping things magically fall into place. It's surrender with intention. It's saying, even when I don't see it, I still believe He's working. That kind of trust doesn't ignore your questions. It just refuses to let them be louder than His promises. Because the truth is, God is never late, and He's never early. He's precise, on time, always. Not by your clock, but by His character. And when you begin to live from that truth, you start breathing differently. You stop measuring progress by outcomes and start measuring it by obedience. You weren't made to carry the weight of control. That's why it breaks you. But He never asked you to hold the plan, just to hold His hand. And in His hand, every moment is meaningful. Every delay is deliberate. Every step, even the slow ones, are soaked in purpose. Sometimes, the hardest part of trusting God's timing isn't waiting, it's watching. Watching others move forward while you feel stuck. Watching doors open for someone else while yours stay shut. It stirs questions. Did I miss it? Did I do something wrong? But God's silence is never absence, and His delay is never denial. What if the waiting is where the real work is happening? Not around you, but within you. What if the delay isn't punishment, but preparation? What if what feels like nothing is actually a divine reset, clearing space in your soul so you can carry what's coming without it crushing you? When God moves slow, He's still moving. Sometimes speed would sabotage the seed He's planted, so He waters in secret. He prunes quietly, and when the time is right, not when you think you're ready, but when He knows you're steady, the shift comes, and you realize He wasn't holding out on you. He was holding you up. You were never called to understand the whole plan, just to trust the One who does. And that trust, it becomes your anchor, your peace, your strength when the timeline doesn't make sense. Letting go of control doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying what was never yours to hold. Control feels safe, but it's an illusion, a weight we weren't designed to bear. And the more you grip it, the more exhausted your soul becomes. But trust releases. It loosens clenched fists. It says, God, you know better, and I'll rest in that. There's freedom in saying, I don't have to make this happen. In releasing the timeline, in releasing the outcome, in releasing how you thought it would all unfold. Because control may give you the illusion of stability, but trust gives you the reality of peace. And peace isn't found in certainty, it's found in surrender. God isn't in a rush, because He's not threatened by time. He's the creator of it. And while we panic in the pauses, He prepares. He aligns hearts. He opens doors we don't even know exist yet. He protects us from stepping into things we're not built to carry yet. That's not delay, that's mercy. And when you start to believe that His timing is not just right, but good, you stop begging for what's next and start being present in what's now. Because even here, even in the wait, He is with you. The world tells you to hustle, to hurry, to never slow down. But heaven works on a different rhythm, one of rest, trust, and timing. And when you align your life with that rhythm, you start to notice things shift, not always around you, but within you. Anxiety gives way to awareness. Fear gives way to faith. You stop running ahead and start walking with God. It takes courage to trust what you can't see, to believe that even in stillness, God is building, But trust is never wasted. Every time you choose to release worry instead of control outcomes, you're building spiritual muscle. You're learning to wait well, not with panic, but with purpose. And here's the beautiful irony. When you stop rushing, you actually become ready, not because you forced the timing, but because you surrendered to it. You're not just waiting for the blessing, you're being shaped into someone who can carry it well. If this reminded you to stop striving and start trusting, subscribe and turn on the bell, not for more content, but for gentle reminders that God's timing is still good and His hand is still on your story. There's a quiet strength that grows in the waiting, the kind you can't fake, the kind that isn't built in comfort, but in surrender. And every time you choose to trust instead of control, you're not just surviving the delay, you're being shaped by it. God's timing often feels hidden because it's holy. He's not rushed by your deadlines. He's not distracted by what you think should have happened by now. He sees the full picture, the moments you can't see yet. And what feels like silence is often His most intimate work, realigning your heart to His rhythm. When you stop trying to write the timeline yourself, your hands become free to receive what only He can give. You begin to live with open palms. You let go of the version of life you thought you needed, and trust that what He's bringing is better than what you were building. You weren't created to carry pressure. You were created to carry presence. And in that space of letting go, your spirit finally has room to breathe again. Not because everything is clear, but because you've chosen peace over answers. Fear thrives in uncertainty. It grows in the spaces between what if and why not yet. And the enemy loves to fill those gaps with noise, with doubt, distraction, panic. But God doesn't shout over fear. He whispers peace into it. And when you lean in close, when you quiet the world enough to hear Him, His voice becomes louder than the questions. Letting go of fear isn't pretending it's not there. It's refusing to let it lead. It's saying, I feel the tension, but I choose trust anyway. It's making room in your spirit to believe that God's plan doesn't need your panic. It needs your permission. Not to manipulate it, but to yield to it. The more you trust, the less fear sticks. Because faith and fear can't rule the same heart. One always rises as the other falls. And even if fear shows up again tomorrow, your trust can meet it with truth. God is still in control, and I don't need to be. Every time you release your grip, heaven leans in. And peace, the kind that passes all understanding, doesn't just visit, it stays. Not as a moment, but as a way of living. There's a kind of maturity that only grows in the slow, the kind that comes from not getting your way, not seeing the answers right away, and still choosing to say, God, I trust you. That trust doesn't come from easy seasons. It's forged in the in-between, in the ache of almost, in the silence of not yet. And yet, something beautiful happens there. You begin to stop measuring your life by what you can control. You stop chasing perfect timing and start resting in perfect presence. You no longer need to see the full plan, just the next faithful step. And somehow, that's enough. God never wastes a wait. He uses it to deepen you, to strip away what doesn't last, to sharpen your vision, so that when the promise finally comes, you don't just receive it, you steward it. You carry it with gratitude, not entitlement, with humility, not fear. This is the gift of His timing. It doesn't just deliver what you asked for, it prepares you to handle it. And by the time it comes, you're not just waiting anymore. You're ready. One day, everything will make sense. The delays, the detours, the doors that never opened. You'll look back and realize what felt like silence was actually strategy. What felt like rejection was redirection. And the wait, it wasn't wasted. It was weaving you into alignment with something greater than you even knew to ask for. God's timing isn't just good, it's intentional. And every moment you didn't get what you wanted, you were still getting what you needed. Strength, clarity, dependence. A faith that isn't built on outcomes, but on who He is. And that kind of faith, it outlasts disappointment. It thrives in the unknown. It anchors you in the storms that timing can't prevent. So no, you're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're being perfectly positioned for what God has prepared. And when you finally walk into it, it will be obvious. This was never late. It was right on time. And now ask yourself this. If you truly believe that God's timing was never wrong, how much lighter would your heart feel today?